Hi everybody, this is Gio, and today we're going to do Chapter 2 of The Dark. January 8th, 2462. Aboard the LRCH Adi Shachar. Ian. Enemy missiles have acquired target lock, Gallagher said. Those are fast little buggers. He was right. Though the raider ship was only a little faster than us, the missiles were a lot faster. A dead weight formed in my stomach. The Adi Shachar had little chance to outrun them, but we might not need to, if we could get to Nuestra. Carruthers, I said into the comm, we need a lot more speed. Dump the cargo, Robinson said through the comm. I can't go any lower on life support. The captain drummed her fingers on her chair and adjusted her personal display before she said, What level's the reactor at? Red line, love. I can't coax any more power, Carruthers said. With a twist of my hand, I realigned the Adi Shachar's course for a direct line to the Nuestran beacon. Half the systems on my board were in the red. The other half were in the yellow. If we made it out of this, the Adi would need a month-long refit at best. A full burst was hard on the engines, and a full burst for this long could melt them. Ian, Rohan said, unbuckling her safety harness, I'm going back to engineering. Maybe we can figure something out. You have the bridge. What about the cargo? I asked. She floated to the wheel-lock door at the rear of the bridge. If it comes to it, dump it. After she left, I pulled up the cargo manifest. Gallagher, how long until we reach Nuestra? Not long, Gallagher said, pulling his CSM out of his shirt and kissed it. Bet at their speed, the missiles will impact us before we get there. I touched my own CSM and whispered, Bring us home. Every spacer wore a necklace with a CSM on it. One of the very first spacecraft, the command and service module of the Apollo series moonlanders, dated from the 20th century, I think. It was a small cylinder topped by a shallow round cone on one end, and on the other was a single rocket engine. Impossibly primitive by anyone's standards. The tiny craft brought the first astronauts to the moon, waited for them to land on the moon, in another tiny craft called a lunar module, and returned. Then, most importantly, the CSM brought them home again. Every spacer wore one, because we needed something to bring us home when things got bad. Home is so desperately far away. 1 light year is 9.4 trillion kilometers, and Earth is 55 of those away from Nuestra. Most of us out here have never even seen Earth. It takes too long to get there. The feeling in my gut told me that the CSM won't bring me home this time. With the AI locked onto the Nuestra beacon, I shifted my panel to display the cargo bays. Adi, I said. That's what we call the AI on board. Release cargo. Authorization confirmed, the Adi said. Shipwide communication, I said. Listen up, everybody. It's going to get bumpy. A siren sounded. Red emergency lights flashed in the cargo bay. The cargo doors opened. The restraints holding the cargo retracted, and hundreds of tons of ore, concrete, and beer flew into space. That's a waste of good beer, Robinson said through the comm. We did pick up more speed, but not enough to shake the missiles. I shifted my panel back to piloting and made some minor adjustments that might shave off a few seconds. Ian, can you handle the bridge alone? Rohan's voice yelled through the comm. I've got it. What do you need? I said. Gallagher, she said. Get down here. We need some help. Gallagher unbuckled his harness and floated out of the bridge. On my way. I set the kennel on Gallagher's chair and gave it a light pat. Guaca mewed. It's just you and me, Guaca, I said. The cargo floated around the Adi Shachar and flew in the same trajectory, more or less, as we did. With the extra speed, we surged ahead of the cargo and gained some distance from the raider, but not the missiles. The first one slammed into us somewhere in the center of the Adi Shachar, Atmosphere alarms exploded. Emergency klaxons screamed. Atmosphere rushed out the wheel lock door. I unbuckled, jumped to the wheel lock, and closed the door, spinning the wheel lock shut. Guaca and I were safe, but we were now trapped here. From my vantage, I could see all the consoles, and everything is flashing red. The Adi shuddered. Oxygen levels dropped. Power fluctuated across the entire ship. Making sure Guaca's kennel is strapped down, I jumped back to my console. We got lucky, sort of. The Adi is still in one piece. The missile hit us just ahead of the reactor, damaging the reactor, causing a power cascade that has fried the AI network. We're flying blind, at full speed, with no functioning controls, straight for the 5 little domes of Nuestra. At this speed and without the AI, we won't slow down in time. Captain, we've got a problem, I said, strapping the harness around me. I don't get a response. I didn't have time to panic either. Power flickered on. The consoles came back to life. I disengaged us from the Nuestran beacon, then adjusted our course. We still had our full forward momentum, but maybe I can divert the course enough to keep from destroying the best food in the Bentley-Thwaite arm, and all its people. My engines decided to work, and I pushed the Adi to turn, even a little. It won't take much, but it will save the colony. I diverted every ounce of power to shift our course. Robinson, shut off life support. I need the power, I said. He didn't answer. Rohan did. Abandoned ship. Reactor has gone critical. Get to your pods now. I can't do that. The main corridor is open to space. I'm trapped on the bridge. Guaca will probably survive. I won't. I pulled up my CSM and prayed to whoever listened. A small miracle would be nice. The forward monitor didn't come back online, but I could see out the forward viewport. Space slowly rotated as the ship adjusted to the new course. One tiny speck of light didn't rotate. We were still aimed at Nuestra. Several small lights flashed on my panel. 9 pods had launched. 3 left. Sound off, Captain Rohan said. I'm in a pod, Gallagher said. So am I, love, Carruthers said. Everybody replied, except me and Robinson. Robinson, report, Rohan yelled. AI's down, I said. I can't locate him. Ian, where are you? Captain Rohan demanded. I'm on the bridge, Captain. Rohan swore under her breath. Get to your pod, Ian. Don't be a dead hero. No can do. Main corridor is vac, and we are still headed for Nuestra. If I don't shift our course, they die. Rohan swore. What do you need me to do? I didn't have a chance to answer. The second missile hit. All lights on the bridge went dark, even the consoles. With full power, I had a chance to adjust our course. Now we were a giant metal spitwad aimed at the little colony. Adi, report. The AI didn't respond. Nothing did. My console was dark. I'm not a tech, but I know enough to jump back to the main power panel, pull it open. And I smelled the burnt circuitry inside. A surge had fried the panel. I pulled out the burnt piece marked main power and replaced it with the one that said atmospherics. Not a perfect solution, but I didn't have to breathe for very long. A moment later, my panel brightened to life. Forgive me, Adi. I jumped to the pilot station, pulled up the course. We were too close to the asteroid, and main power flickered at best. The missile must have hit us on the top feeds leading into the reactor. God must have a sense of humor because I get to take my pick of how to go. Death by asphyxiation, death by impact, or death by radiation. The engines hiccuped back to life. Whoever built the Adi Shachar built her well. The engines were sluggish, but at least they responded to my input. That was the good news. The Adi was still headed to Nuestra. It wouldn't take much of a change to miss them. As I forced the engines to slow us, I pushed the course as much as I could so we would miss the domes and the spaceport beacon. I broadcast an emergency SOS. It might give the colonists a chance to get to shelters. A small blip followed us on the scanners. One of the raiders came in for the kill. I have to fly fast enough to get to Nuestra first, and slow enough not to destroy the colony. Come on, Adi, you can do it, I said. January 8th, 2462. The Azul Mines. Rias. Alert, all stations, Perlita screamed over the comm. Perlita de Leon was my aunt, and second in command of Nuestra. Emergency stations, this is not a drill. Normally, we don't get daily chatter from Nuestra. The Azul Mines are too far away. This one we got. I turned to Marcial. Uncle? Marcial walked over to the main control board and pulled up an image of the surrounding Nuestran asteroid. Nothing looked abnormal. It was still all gray and rocky. My tools on the table started to shiver and rotate. I touched the wall, and it vibrated, almost like the wall that buried my dad. I froze. The vibration strengthened, and it shivered right through my boots. Uncle? Adjusting the monitor, Marcial pulled up an orbital view of the 5 domes of Nuestra. There was a fuzziness about the image where it should have been clear. Uncle, what's going on? Explosives? I asked. The wall monitors rattled. My table jiggled, then bounced. That's impossible, Marcial muttered. Stepping beside him, I adjusted the monitor to get a better definition. But it didn't work. The monitor showed nothing unusual. The vibration grew even stronger. The lift groaned. Many of my carefully aligned tools clattered and danced on the table. Earthquake? I said. Marcial shook his head. Feel the ground? Only a ship on full burn would do that. I gripped the table, hard, and forced my breath to steady. For a second, it was 2 months ago, and the wall had collapsed and buried my dad. Get to cover, Marcial yelled, pushing me to the doorway. I stood under it, holding on. Marcial dove under my table. The rocks vibrated against each other. The metal on the lift moaned as the braces and supports twisted. The main wall monitor fell, smashing into hundreds of broken bits. The noise from the rocks deepened into a growl. The air vibrated and screamed and throbbed. I crouched down, hands over my ears. Marcial held onto the legs of the table, but it started bouncing. The groan from the rocks became a rumble. My tools bounced. The small parts of the yellow suit scattered, and the power drill fell off the table and onto Marcial's head. He slumped to his side, a bleeding welt on his temple. Uncle? I dove from the doorframe to the table. My carefully lined-up parts scattered across the floor. The lift squealed. The top support brace twisted and ripped in half. The lift fell, and it banged on every level going down. The tunnel that led to the barracks creaked and twisted. The emergency pressure door slammed shut. Yanking my uncle back under the table. The noise hurt my ears, and I screamed. The rocks screamed. Another monitor fell off the wall, smashing. My tools all clattered and danced across the floor. Sudden silence. Alarms blared to life. Emergency. A multiple systems critical. Emergency. Whatever had caused this had ended. My ears rang. My uncle's head bled, and dust filled the air. Rotating red emergency lights flashed. We both coughed. Critical alert, the AI voice blared. Atmosphere leak detected on level 7. Decompression imminent. Atmosphere containment doors not working. January 8th, 2462. The LRCH Adi Shachar. Ian. The Nuestran domes flew under me. The image showed that the Adi had missed them by a few hundred feet. Enough of the momentum had bled off so I wasn't immediately vaporized as we skimmed along the surface of the asteroid. The Adi Shachar hit the ground, sliding all along the ground. My boards worked long enough to show that the Adi had broken in two. Then all power died. So did everything else. I don't know how far we dragged across the asteroid, but it crunched the front of the ship, squishing it inward. When the Adi stopped, I was still alive. Sort of. The collision had squeezed the bridge, leaving my right arm trapped under Gallagher's console, and the captain's chair had wedged itself against my ribs. My right leg must be broken with the way it screamed. I didn't know a person could stay conscious and hurt so much. Guaca paced in her kennel, hissing. I didn't see any injury, but I couldn't see much. With my left hand, I tried to activate my board. Nothing. The one big crack was joined by 50 others. Something trickled through my hair. I touched it. My left hand came away with my blood. At least Nuestra survived. I prayed that my shipmates survived as well, and that someone would find them. With as many cracks as were in the viewport, or on every surface for that matter, I wouldn't survive much longer anyway. All I could do was wait. So I lifted my CSM so I could see it. No, the CSM would not be bringing me home on this one. But maybe it could help the others. Take them home, I whispered. Thank you, everybody, for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Peace.